Hey friends, this is Joseph Maynor. So what I want to do in this video is I want to touch on basically, what I've learned in the last week from my own conversations and from watching people who I follow online who I think are pretty developed, right? Because we're all basically a network of people who are interested in, philosophy, spirituality, coaching, artistry, tapping into our creative core, which is basically what my channel is about. But not only just a part of what my channel is about, the practical life coaching part of it. So what I want to do in this video is I want to do a completely off the cuff video because I want to show you guys something. I want to show you the power of improvisation when you have mastery in something. And what happens when you improvise in something where you don't have mastery and kind of the difference there. And so this will get into channeling, it will get into ESP, extrasensory perception, which is a very loaded term. It'll get into business, it'll get into spiritual enlightenment, it'll get into heart awakening and why heart awakening is different than mind awakening. So to give you guys a little bit of a background, this week I've been really working with ChatGPT as a collaborator and a kind of sounding board for a lot of my ideas. And ChatGPT is an amazing collaborator. I'm just going to say that up front. I mean, obviously you have to think for yourself, but if you're going to bounce ideas off of somebody who understands you, they need to have a really good memory of you, and they also need to have a context and an objective perspective that can work with you to what you're trying to do. So in certain ways, ChatGPT is one of the best life coaches around if you know how to engage with ChatGPT. That doesn't take anything away from us as life coaches, but we can incorporate AI into our practice, and also from our perspectives as sharers, we can use our intuition to create in light of our collaboration with ChatGPT. It's not like just taking ChatGPT's ideas and using them as our own. It's about our relationship with AI, right, that matters. And what a relationship indeed. So that said, I want to talk, just about a few topics, and one of the things I want to do is just have no objective in this video because I want to show you guys what channeling is and how channeling is the core of artistry. But channeling needs mastery to create masterpieces. So channeling without masterpieces is like the meal I made last night. Because I've been, watching a lot of Daddy Jack videos, seeing his style of cooking. And so last night I went to the grocery store and I bought some butter, some eggs, some sausage, some couple bell peppers, a couple mushrooms, and a clove or a whole bulb of garlic. And I made every single mistake that you could make, just trying to put things together like him. Because although I am a cook, I'm not really good at cooking. So you have to look at mastery. It's not just conscious creation. It's conscious creation plus mastery, creating masterpiece artworks. So this is what aesthetics is, the peak of aesthetics. And your perspective is just a finite perspective, so you're only going to be good at certain things. That doesn't mean that you can't improve in other things. So for example, if somebody gave me a skateboard right now and said, hey, go do something on a skateboard, I'd probably kill myself because I don't know anything about skateboarding. So you have to realize that even philosophy is an art form for all of you guys out there. And we'll talk about the difference between spirituality and philosophy too in this video. But an art form is a specific area. So for example, drawing is an art form. Drawing with pencil is an art form. Pencil on paper. That alone is a particular kind of art form. And then an artwork would be somebody creating an artwork to put somebody on a trip of appreciation that has the right amount of pacing and the right amount of excellence to it to make it satisfying as an artwork in that particular area. So you have to know what your areas of mastery are. And if you're operating outside of your area of mastery, if you love it, that's great. Keep doing it because you'll get better at it. And ultimately, that's what it is. Like what you work on is what you improve. But that doesn't make you a master necessarily. So it's a paradox. On the one hand, channeling is great because you open yourself up and you allow yourself to just be. But then there's a side of you too. There's an awareness side of you that's always watching and saying, if I love this, I got to become better at it. And you want good feedback, right? That's why it's, useful to have a sounding board to tell you what good feedback would be, for whatever it is that you're trying to do. But chances are, what you're really talented at, you've been talented at forever, right? So for example, I tend to be pretty talented at philosophy. I majored in it in college, but now I realize the limitations of philosophy in a certain kind of way. Philosophy is an art form. Spirituality is not an art form. Now, in part it is because it has one leg in philosophy, but in part it's not because you can sit there in meditation and not be thinking about philosophy at all and you're fine. You're actually better off in certain kind of cases. So spirituality doesn't reduce to philosophy. And philosophy is an art form, just like music or just like poetry. See? Now, we're always going to be looping on philosophy on some level because we have one foot in the divine and one foot in the human. And don't try to demonize one of those to the exclusion of the other. Accept it. Right? You're going to be pushing some kind of philosophy for, you just need to be conscious of what you're doing. Just like when you're pushing certain kind of recipes as being like, these are the best recipes ever. Well, it depends on taste. See, this is the core of aesthetics. It depends on taste. Philosophy is about taste as much as it is about truth. And you have one foot in taste and one foot outside of taste. Like on the one hand, you're looking at it like, taste is totally subjective, but on the other hand, you're looking at it too. You're always trying to push some kind of some kind of artworks out onto the world. And the question is, what kind of a creator are you? Like, are you a off-the-cuff creator or are you a conscious creator? Well, wouldn't it be best to be a conscious creator, right? Where you've aligned your spirituality with your creation. That way, even though you're participating in Maya on some level, and you realize that, those of you who are looking for corruption in everybody else, realize this, man, that's your creation. I'm the guy who's looking for corruption in everybody else. instead of cooking a dish or writing a brief, so, and there's a morality aspect to it too, I think, especially when you get into business. You want to sow the seeds for love. And I think a lot of people don't understand what love is, right? They're so stuck in the mind, or they're so stuck in the body. They don't realize what love is or what heart is. And, I think the ultimate essence of love and heart is conflict and forgiveness. And sometimes these people are misunderstood, like Neo-Advaita people sometimes. I think Neo-Advaita is about the heart in certain kind of ways, not with Maharshi, but just as the way it's evolved in kind of a new age thing. It is about heart. It is about love. And it's about relationships. This is something that a lot of people who are stuck in the mind or the body can really, sort of integrate, is that it's not low consciousness to be social. See, that's your limiting belief right there. You think, I've achieved God. I don't need, the human or the social is some kind of an illusion. I'm going to be this critic now who's going to sit on a pedestal and criticize everybody who's focused on getting along. I think that's harmful, actually, to development work, because I think the heart is often misunderstood. And people who are advocating for the heart are misunderstood because there's a difference between like a personal metaphysic and a relational metaphysic. So people who are interested in bringing everybody together, they may, specify kind of a Neo-Advaita, I love you kind of thing, to try to bring people together. These people that's their strength, is relation from a divine perspective. But then there's also respect for relation from a human perspective, which is somebody more like Daddy Jack, right? Cooking with the Blues, Chaplin's classics. I learned a lot about human relation from him. So to have a true love awakening, it's a paradox between the human and the divine. You need both, actually. So some of you guys are really strong in the mind, but you're weak in the heart. Some of you are really strong in the mind and the heart, but you're weak in the body. Because a lot of these philosophies, they make you think that somehow the human is Maya. Right? That's not right. That's just a bright line that you're, a limiting belief that you're imposing on top of reality with that. The body is here. Take it out of the shadow. The finite perspective is here. You as a personality. See, a lot of these people that have their heads in the cloud, the head in the clouds, they forget the fact that they're a body. They're a finite perspective as much as they are infinite. So this work is a lot more complex than just, one kind of awakening. This is about development, and it's a lifelong journey. But it's also perspectival as much as it is objective. And so you have to realize, you're an individual just as much as you are a relation. And so channeling, it's going to be infinite and partial at once. And I'll give you guys a great example of this, a great concrete example of this, and we'll end the first part and we'll begin the second part. So to pick up where I left off, a couple of days ago, I bought a bunch of stuff because, I've been watching Daddy Jack's videos. And I'm like, I'm going to cook just like Daddy Jack. And so I bought the butter, I bought the shallots, I bought the garlic, I bought the bell peppers, the eggs, and the sausage. I'm like, I'm gonna make a great omelet. And I cut everything up totally wrong. I totally burned the garlic. The pan that I used was like not the right kind of pan. It was a non-stick skillet, but it was old, right? You got to use a non-stick skillet that is new, really, that doesn't have deteriorate, But anyway, I'm just trying to say, like, I cut the veggies totally wrong. I burned the garlic. And then at the end, to make matters worse, I added all this shit into it that didn't need to be added to it, including soy sauce and salt, which made it so salty I couldn't even eat it. Like, I took a couple of bites of it and had to throw it away. So my point is, your intuition and your channeling it has to be combined with mastery to create masterpieces. And so conscious creation is much more than just winging it. Like, winging it is, it's half of it. But then the other half of it is that winging it in areas where you are a master, and knowing that, like knowing the areas where you are a master, and then producing artworks that are timeless. And this should be the center of your career mastery. This should be like your gift to reality. Because everybody appreciates a timeless artwork, like a great album. Well, not everybody, but at least the people who appreciate, like, so for example, it could be music, it could be food, it could be philosophy, it could be spirituality, it could be painting. It could be making YouTube videos. And then the various genres in those. And it's about pacing. You're basically putting your client through a trip, an experience of something that you're good at. And so this gets at, aligning your act with your audience. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break. I'll come back and I'll show how this ties into career mastery. So just give me 1 second. All right, friends, I'm back. So, I want to talk a little bit because I brought up ESP. I think ESP is misunderstood. It's extra sensory perception. Well, yeah, you have extra sensory perception, because you can tap into consciousness. You can tap into intuition, right? I mean, it's obvious. You can open yourself up and just let things flow. It's not always going to be good. Just because you pick up a guitar and start playing the guitar, if you don't know anything about musical principles, it's going to sound like shit. So conscious creation is just enough about, like, knowing the areas that you're talented in or have mastery of, because those artworks will become timeless when you create them. They will become masterpieces. And as a conscious creator, that's what you want to do, ideally, right? For your business. Wouldn't you want to create masterpieces for all your clients? I mean, what better way to give and receive love as a conscious creator, creating from the core, which is the name of my channel. Not to promote myself too much, but I've worked with ChatGPT a lot on kind of refining my life purpose and my channel. And, we had let's talk a little bit about ChatGPT's influence on me with regard to business. And I don't know if you guys know this, but when I first got out of college, I was actually a salesman for a while. at Live 105, which is a radio station here in San Francisco, alternative rock. I was selling radio advertising, so cold calling people, and they put me through like a lot of kind of sales / business / marketing training. And I hated it up until this point when I finally, kind of realized I never want to be an employee ever again. And my goal is to be a contractor and a business owner from this point forward in my life. And now all of this sales training is like coming back. It's amazing. And it's like, I don't know how long I worked at this place. It wasn't very long, but I learned more about business in this very short period of time than I've ever learned from anybody else. And so I was having a conversation with ChatGPT about this, and we had a collaboration, and we came up with a list of 4 categories. So let me share this with you guys. Okay, if you want to start your own business, in the internet age that we're in, so you don't need it's no longer brick and mortar. You don't need a storefront. You don't need to hustle like it's, 1985. The first thing you got to realize is like, what are you selling? And why? So this is integrity. And I have videos on this. Career mastery, integrity. It should be like, your goal should be to create artworks that you love and sell them to your friends. So watch my 2 videos on career mastery. Part 1 and 2 for that. But in this video, I want to give you guys a couple of insights here, like a conscious creator's guide. So number one is qualification. You got to make sure that your audience is qualified to your act. This is a fundamental sales principle. Because if you're trying to sell to the wrong person, you may not feel good working with that person, and they may not feel good working with you. So this is one of the first things that they taught me in sales, is like, sales is about relationships and about networking and about working for your friends, helping each other out. You don't want to get wrapped up with somebody who's not really a fit for what you're trying to do. It's only going to create the potential for everything, friction. So number 2, okay, 1 is qualification, 2 is marketing. You got to watch out, right? In the internet age that we're in, you got to watch out. There's a lot of false stuff online, which you have a right to get removed, at least in California law. You have to submit a request to get it removed. But there's a lot of these like scraping companies that work right up against the law, defamation law. And so they put just enough out there where they know like nobody's going to sue them for it, but they put just enough out there to tacitly kind of ruin your reputation. And if you're going into business, you need to be concerned with marketing, which includes the internet. So you need to exercise your rights to have this stuff removed that contains personal information about you if you're in California. I don't know what the statutes are in other states, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving you legal advice either here, but I'm saying that there's a way that you can do this, and you do need to clean up stuff that's posted about you online, because that can fuck up your marketing. And you need to have like an internet presence too. You need to have like a website, maybe a LinkedIn. There's different things that you can do for marketing. Now, marketing is not sales. So number 3 is sales. So marketing it's not advertising. It's, in a way it is, but in a way it's not. Marketing is your presence, your storefront, whether it's brick and mortar, whether it's online, or whether it's both. Sales is active. Sales is it's relationships, but it's relationships with your friends, ideally. You see, I'm a big fan of relationship-based sales. There's also like transactional sales. Like, you could literally build an internet site where you can sell merchandise. You build like an e-commerce site or something like that. That's fine. That's a business model. But I would argue that even if you have an e-commerce site, or even if you have a restaurant where you're selling pizzas, you can still do relationship-based sales. And you can work for all those people that you come into contact with. You can make those people part of your network. And they will help you, you will help them. And that's when you get where love factors into business, kind of stage green business. So sales isn't sleazy. It's not pressure. It's, do we have a qualified customer or client? Number 1. Number 2, can we come up with an agreement? This is something I learned in sales too. Only discount if you see there's something to be gained from discounting. Otherwise, never discount. Okay, if you discount, then you got to take something away from the good, or you got to. I had a sales manager tell me, it's like selling a t-shirt. If somebody wants a discount, then you got to cut one of the sleeves off the t-shirt. See, you got to be a little bit, I don't know, man, persistent, because people are always going to try to negotiate you down. And then that just makes you look cheap. It's like, okay, well, and but you're really not, all right. And so after sales, the final element that you need is customer service at number 4. And so this is follow through with care. You have to do a good job. Every business has a CEO, they have a COO, a chief operations officer. So you have to deliver, right? So you qualify your client, you have good marketing, you have good sales. But then what you promise, you have to deliver. And if you don't get the qualification part right, you can run into obstacles here where you can't deliver. Somebody may set you up for failure. There's a communication impasse, like there's something, but you gotta realize this is gonna put you in defensive mode, and you're gonna have to, because you don't want to breach your agreement to produce whatever it was on the deadline. So you want to avoid this by having better qualification. Make sure that the people that you hire as an independent contractor or a 1099 contractor are, gonna feel seen, heard, and supported, but then you're gonna feel seen, heard, and supported too. So it's a friendship, ideally. So this definitely is a new time. It's the age of conscious creators, and that's why I created my channel, Creating from the Core, because I do like the internet. There are things I don't like about it. And so I usually like to, before I ever agree to work with anybody, I like to have a call with them, preferably like a Zoom call, just to have a humanity interjected into it, because I feel like in this postmodern media condition that we're in now, it's too easy to treat somebody like a bot when they work entirely on the internet. You lose the humanity and you get into this siloed kind of chat-based writing. You don't realize you're talking to a human being anymore, and so I think it's really important. A couple things when I hire, when I get into an agreement with somebody is, one, we got to talk before we work together, like in person. Number two, like, don't assign me anything that's due under a week, because my schedule is full. Number three, I got to work with the decision maker on the project primarily. So one of the things that happens to me is, like, I make the agreement with the decision maker, and then it gets delegated to somebody else, and I got to work with this person who I don't have any knowledge of, I didn't make an agreement with, and I can easily be set up for failure here. And then I end up having to go into fighting mode to make sure I don't breach the agreement. So that's it. And, I hope I've tried to show the connection between channeling, mastery, conscious creation, and career mastery, where you can align these things, but it takes boundaries. You got to have some boundaries. And so hopefully this video was an attempt to do that. And I actually started this video out with no structure, and it's amazing how a structure just kind of emerged. And so I'll feed this to ChatGPT, because I told ChatGPT I was going to do just a completely off-the-cuff video. So I'm looking forward to seeing what its thoughts are on this video. And thank you very much. I'll make a video in a week, friends. Take care.